welcome back to the weekly edit. This week I'm in Capture One Pro, and I'll be editing one of my images that I captured last winter on a 3-day ski tour with SAC. It's the SAC, Swiss Alpine Club. We do a 3-day ski tour towards the end of the ski season every year in the mountains around our valley. And I thought, since we're at the moment mid-December here, winter is getting into full swing. Ski season or touring season is not too far off, or if you have your finger on the pulse of conditions, you already have done some ski tours, where we live at least. So yeah, I want to show you guys how I edit an image I captured then in Capture One. Before we jump into the edit, this image, like I mentioned, was captured on ski tour in the mountains high above the valley of Lenk in Switzerland, where we live. It was captured with a Panasonic G9 Micro Four Thirds mirrorless camera. The reason for that is, well, one, it's an amazing little camera, and two, for me it's the perfect balance between weight and image quality. You know, when you're traversing the mountains, whether it's hiking or especially on ski tour, where you're carrying a lot of extra gear, for safety reasons as well, avalanche gear, what's the English word? Harness, rope, stuff like that. Then, if you're lugging around like a bulky DSLR as well, that just to make life not so much fun. So through a lot of trial and error and experimentation, for me, I've sort of settled on the Micro Four Thirds camera to be a really good camera to take along. Plus, you get good a range of focal lengths in a small package. So the lens I was using, only one lens on this trip, was the Leica 12 to 60 millimeter f2.8 to f4. So full frame equivalent would be 24 to 120, which is pretty decent. So yeah, and let's jump into the edit and get going. So as you can see here, I have Capture One open with 3 images. It's all the same different versions of the same raw file, currently unedited. So the first one I'm going to leave as is. That's going to be our reference. And the second one, we're going to do the color edit. And the third one is going to be the black and white edit. So actually, while I'm looking at that now, I could probably just delete variant, and then, yeah, that's fine. And then once we've done the color edit, we can carry over. So in Capture One, when you're in the library module where you have all your images, I've just filtered this one out. I can, let me just quickly take that metadata away. So if I just take the filter off, you'll see all the images. It was quite a remarkable tour, from whiteout conditions over here, you can see, to beautiful blue sky day of ski touring over some high peaks. And in this particular image, let me filter it out quickly. I don't have to look for it. There we go. To skiing fresh powder onto a glacier. You can see the distance there. But anyway, let's enlarge it, then we'll get going. So in Capture One, you can just double click on it, or you press G to enlarge it. And this is the raw image. This is the image as shot. If we go quickly to the before after here, you can see there's no change. And before I jump into the edit, let's just quickly talk about, like I normally do, about the vision for the edit. So in this case, there's not a lot I want to do. Like I normally say with my imagery, I generally want to show or enhance what was there on scene, in nature. And in this case, all I want to do, because it's a raw file, I want to increase the contrast a little bit, lighten up some shadows maybe, brighten up some highlights, because on the original exposure I expose a bit more for the highlights, so it's a little bit dark, the image. And probably just do a little crop to arrange the elements within the frame a little bit better. But I think this image also, it tells quite a cool story, with the skier coming in sort of left of frame. 2 or 3 skiers have already skied down, so the eye sort of follows that the ski track down to them and then into the rest of the frame, following the reaches of the mountains. It's just sort of one of those images that you can just mentally wander through for a while, for days. So to get back to the point, my vision for this image is just to make some contrast adjustments, white balance, and probably adjust a bit the sky and the shadows. So let's do it. Okay, so capture one, image is at scale to fit. Now tabs along the top here, you have tether, which is for tethered shooting. We're not doing that. Shape, if you want to, architectural imagery, if you want to straighten perspective, do things like that. What we are going to do here, we're just quickly going to go to the profile corrections. Now, with modern mirrorless cameras, the advantage is it's often done in camera, or it's embedded in the file, so you don't have to do too much in the program. I'm just going to enable diffraction correction, just for that last bit of quality. And the sharpness and light fall off is grayed out here because the corrections have been done in camera. And then heading over to the style tab, this is like presets if you're familiar with Lightroom. So you have different styles you can apply here. Now capture one has some built-in ones. Also, when you mouse over them, they'll apply themselves, and you'll see the image change there. It's quite subtle, these ones. These other built-in styles, sort of more drastic changes. I'm not going to be applying a preset, so we're going to head finally to the adjustment panel. Now, this is very similar to Lightroom. It's just on the left-hand side, and with some different aspects. So in Capture One, you have the histogram, and then below that you actually have layers, which is quite nice. We'll work with them in a little bit. And then below that, you have some style brushes, so you can still brush in effects or those presets. And smart adjustments are actually they're quite handy for bulk adjustments. When you make an edit to an image, you can set it as a reference and then apply that to other images. But again, we're going to stay away from that for this image. I just want to keep the edit simple. And then we get finally to the white balance. Now, just looking at the image, just judging my eye, the white balance here for me is looking quite good. So I'm not going to be too much adjusting there. Again, with snow images or winter images like this, it can sometimes be a bit tricky. Quite more notably, you'll notice the shadows being quite cool and the snow being quite warm. So there's quite a duality there. But for me, I find the sort of best thing to do is just sort of judge it by eye, and then go from there. So in a daylight scene like the snow is really pure white, so I might warm this up just a tad, just about there. And now in Capture One, you can actually sort of choose a reference, and you can see it does its best, but it went a little bit to the green there. So I'm just going to zero that out, and I'm going to warm it up slightly. And exposure wise, I'm not going to do too much. I'm actually going to use brightness, which is sort of more mid-tone brightening effect. And while I'm doing that, I'm just going to enable the exposure warning at the top there. That blowing out there is the sun. It's to be expected, so I'm not worried about that. So I'm just looking at the overall brightness balance within the scene. Exposure is going to be too much of an aggressive adjustment. So now overall the scene to me looks pretty good. So I'm going to disable exposure warning. Saturation I'm not going to worry about. Contrast for now I'm going to stay away from. I'm going to add that in another way. And highlights I'm going to actually, let me enable those warnings again. Highlights I'm going to take up because I really want that the brightness and the darkness between the highlights and the shadows, the snow and the shadows there to become apparent. you might hear my son screaming in the background there. He's having I think he's having a fight with his mother downstairs. And shadows, I'm actually going to take. I'm going to brighten them up, and then whites I'm going to take up a tad as well, and then blacks I'm going to take down just ever so slightly. And within a very short period, it's just gone from the before to the after. Now, before I go any further, let me just mention something here quickly about Capture One's raw conversion, which is excellent. It's really world class. I find myself having to do very little to images within Capture One, unless it was shot in a very in a way that was underexposed or overexposed, or there's a lot of distractions to remove. But just sort of in terms of the normal type of editing, in Capture One, it really is by default already on a very very good level. Noise reduction, sharpening, and like I mentioned, the way that it interprets the raw image sort of just gives you such a good starting point. And it can be a bit complex for a lot of people. So then we have two ways of adding more contrast, levels or curves. I'm going to for the color edit, I'm going to stick to the levels, and I'm just going to draw the black point in ever so slightly. You'll see a change in the shadows here. Let me just take that back, take that in ever so slightly, and then the white point as well. And then I'm just going to quickly double check my exposure warning there. Just going to do it, leave it more or less there, and I'll adjust the sky separately via the layers in a moment. So the curve, like I mentioned, I'm going to leave alone for the color edit. Then in Capture One, we have the color editor. So if we want to do any major adjustments to specific colors, what we can try here maybe quickly is to go, so you have the basic panel, or the basic version, which is just the different color channels, or advanced, where you can actually select the little eyedropper tool and then head over here. So what I want to try and do is actually select the shadow color tone. Now once I've clicked on that, you'll see it makes a good estimate of that color range. And what we can do here is we can say view selected color range, and if we select that, the whole image comes black and white, and only the color range that's selected is in color. That's not that obvious in this image, but it does seem to have done quite a good job, except it's also selected the sky there. So let's just quickly see. What I want to do here is just warm up the shadows ever so slightly. Yeah, it's a little bit, that's not having the intended effect there. So, but yeah, that's it's quite a powerful tool. So let's delete that and we'll move on. And then color balance, which is color grading. Here I'm going to actually adjust the shadow aspect. So all I'm going to do here is head into shadows. I'm going to just cool them down slightly. So I'm going to take that down around to the blues, and then on the left hand side here I'm just going to take that up. You can see if I take that up too far, the shadows really become quite blue. I just want a slight blue enhancement there, and then with brightness we can actually add a little bit of, darken them down a little bit, so enhancing contrast. And then for the highlights, I'm going to do the opposite. Go over to the orange, yellow, and then I'm going to increase the saturation again. You can see if I do it too far, it really gets orange. I just want to add a little bit of orange into the shadows, into the highlights there, sorry. And then again, a little bit brightness. And then if we hold Option and click on this reset button, it will temporarily disable the effect. So it was before, after. Just enhancing that little color contrast between highlights and shadows. And then below that we have black and white, we'll get to that. And then below that we have clarity. So I'll just quickly get rid of my, what did I do? Am I still in the color editor? Still the eyedropper selected. There we go. So I'm just going to zoom into 100% here. And then with clarity, you'll see it actually, it sort of has an overall bit of a contrast and sharpening effect. It's quite fairly aggressive, whereas structure is more of a subtle sharpening effect. So while I'm zooming to 100%, what I like to do is I'm going to take the structure up to about 20, and then clarity I'm going to zoom back out, because this is actually going to create a nice depth throughout the scene. So I'm going to pull that up too much so you can see. You can see what it's doing there. You know, if you have a look here in the shadows and the sunny ridges. So I'm going to zero that out. I'm just going to drag that also to about 20 probably. And then if we have a look at the before, after. So just a little bit of almost like a global dodging and burning effect in a very subtle way. Dehaze, for this image I'm going to stay away from. And vignetting I'll do manually via the layers in a moment. So looking at the image overall, I'm pretty happy with that. I might warm it up a tad more, just about there. And then I'm going to head into refinement, which is sharpening and noise reduction. Now if we zoom into 100% here on these skiers already down there, and Capture One by default applies some sharpening, which you can see on the left here. Now if I take that all the way off and you keep an eye on these people here, you'll see they become quite a little bit blurry. Let's just reset that, and they just snap back into focus. Now, sharpening wise, actually there's not much more I want to do here. With that little structure enhancement and the default sharpening from Capture One, I'm very happy with that, and it's having no negative effects on the sky. And then in terms of noise reduction, here in the shadows is where we're going to notice it the most. So let's just keep sort of an overall view like that. And then if I take the noise reduction off, you'll see that noise creeping into the shadows there. So let's just zero that out, take that back to default, sorry. And you'll see, again, great overall noise reduction while still keeping some grainy, noisy details in the shadows, which is actually, in my opinion, quite necessary for detail retention. Grain, again, I'm going to leave that for the black and white. There's no dust within this image, and some purple fringing in moire, which is not applicable. So let's have a quick look at the before after, where we are. It's going to be before, after. Looking good. And I'm going to back to adjustment. Now, what I want to do here is actually just adjust the sky a little bit. So I'm going to go to the layers here, and I am going to add a new empty adjustment layer. And then I'm going to take a gradient filter, linear gradient, and I'm going to draw that down there. And you can just hit M to visualize the mask, and you can rotate it by hovering over the middle line here, just like that. I'm going to soften the gradient quite a bit, and I'm not concerned with it overlapping on the mountains here. And then I'm going to hit M again, and what I'm going to do here is draw down or reduce the highlights. I don't do it too much, you can see there, about there, just to bring this area around the sun a little bit more sort of into to tame it a little bit, for the lack of a better term. And then I want to make the blues in the sky a little bit more blue. So I'm going to take the white balance down. There we go. And if we look at a before, after, not a massive difference, but just that subtle sky enhancement. And I'm going to double click on the layer and just name that. Well, what did I do there? Just name that sky. There we go. And then what I want to do is actually just lighten the skier in the front here a little bit. So I'm going to add another empty adjustment layer, and double click on it, rename that skier, and I'm going to select the radial gradient, and I'm going to draw that over him like that. I'm going to hit M just to visualize the mask, and then I can adjust the shape here for the middle line, and then also by drawing out on the outside just the size, and inside the feather. Make it quite soft, and then by holding shift adjust the whole aspect together. And then all I'm going to do here is actually just enhance the brightness a tad. Am I still on? Hit M again, it's gone, okay. Brightness a tad, and then shadows quite a bit. There we go. And where's there's the brightness. Now if you have a look before, after, very subtle effect, but this brings a little bit of detail into his shadowy side there. And lastly, all I want to do here then is crop. So I'm going to hit the crop tool there, and is it locked? Yeah, it's locked to the aspect ratio. So I'm going to draw that out. I don't know why that's already cropped, but anyway, I want to bring that down a little bit, and I'm looking at the skier that stays on the lower horizontal ruler thirds line. And crop wise, I think that's good. So I'm going to hit enter. So overall, we can see here, in the frame, the skier is going to draws the eye, and then the eye sort of follows the ski tracks to these skiers, and then follows the reach line out of frame. And lastly, let's have a quick look at it before after. So that's before and after, and that's the color edit. I think that's going to be that. Yeah. So nothing too major for the color edit. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, in Capture One for me it always is less is more, because it does such a good job with the initial raw conversion. It's just a matter of bringing my vision for the editor, for the image to life. So yeah, now let's quickly do the black and white edit, and we'll call it a day. Okay, so I'm going to hit G, and then I'm going to hit right click, not hit, I'm not going to hit the image, I'm going to right click the image, and I'm going to say clone variant. If you create a new variant, it's going to create a new variant but without the adjustment. So I'm going to say clone variant. So it copies the image with the adjustments, and then I'm going to hit select it, hit G again, and now I'm going to convert it to black and white. And I'm going to do that via the black and white module within Capture One. Now, the reason I do that with a black and white module is, one, it saves me time, and two, it's very effective. And then I can just add my finishing touches in terms of contrast via the tone curve on top of that, and some grain, and bam, bam, bam. Listen to yourself. Boom. I'm done. So let's bum this out, shall we? That did not sound good. Okay, where was I? Let's bang. Holy crisis. Apologies. What was I doing? I was going to do a black and white conversion. Let's just stick to normal English, shall we? Okay, so I'm going to enable black and white. Now, by default, we have quite a flat black and white conversion here. And to keep in mind, if you've done some color grading on the color edit, just go back to that module and zero it out, because you can see there's a slight, or you can sometimes you can't see it, it's subtle, but let's just zero it out. And then you can see, sorry, I'm on the layer. Go back to the original image layer first, zero that out, and then you can see you get true blacks and whites. And then we'll go, now, interestingly, so the black and white module can't be applied to a layer, so it automatically applies it to the base layer, which is why it picks up that color grading. Anyway, so here we're probably going to have some blues in the shadows, and then some yellows and stuff in the rocks here probably. So let's just have a look at, so magenta wise, it's not a lot in the scene. Blue, if I brighten that, you can see the shadows get a lot brighter. So I'm going to drag that in the opposite direction, because I really want those deep blacks or shadow areas. To about there. Cyan, also a little bit in the shadows, drag that there. And green, green in the scene. And then yellow. You can see the rock areas here lighting up a little bit, so I'm going to leave it more or less at that. And red as well, more or less there. And drag the blue down as well. Oh, that's not too much. Just go through about there. So, I mean, in a very short while, we've gone to quite a respectable black and white. Now, what I want to do is head back to the tone curve. Where was it? To the curve. There we go. So we've added a bit of contrast originally via levels. Now on the tone curve, you can actually, I'm going to take up the black point ever so slightly, and then I'm going to bring down the shadows and bring up the highlights, just like that. And let's have a quick look at our highlight warning. I'm going to increase that quite a bit. It's starting to blow out a little bit on the glacier there. So let's just take that down stuff. Okay. And if we have a look at a tone curve before after, and just a subtle contrast enhancement. And lastly, I'm going to take the blacks down ever so slightly, but I like how the shadows are looking. Increase the contrast ever so slightly as well. And the last adjustment we're going to do is grain, as I always do for the black and white images. So not a lot of noise in this image, just some subtle noise, but it's complementary in my opinion. So grain in Capture One is under refinement or refine module, and that unfortunately can also not be added to a layer. So you have to add it to the base layer or to the image layer. So refine, film grain, and I see a bit of wind on the peak there. Now, where do I want to be? Sort of shadows and highlights about here. And it's by default set on fine grain, but there's no impact because we haven't dragged the impact slider up at all. So I'm going to drag that up quite a bit to about 50%, and then we can see the grain there. And currently fine grain for me, I think I want to do something a little bit more grainy. That silver rich is actually quite nice, but if we just cycle through soft grain's not bad actually. Cubic's getting a little bit aggressive. Tabular, yeah, and harsh grain. It's obviously quite harsh. That soft grain was quite nice. I'm just going to take the impact down all the way. I'm going to drag it up till I like where it's going. Probably about 35. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. And in granularity, you can also increase, decrease, so just more rough or fine. I'm going to leave that at default. Now, if we go quickly back to the people here, the skiers, and let's disable the grain. And you can see they're sharp in focus, but when we let the grain come through, it's almost as if there's just a little bit of a natural more detail and texture there, especially around the edges. And it also just helps with the way the highlights and the shadows transition into each other, especially with modern digital camera sensors. Anyway, I think that's going to be that. Oh no, sorry, vignette I said. So let's just quickly add, we go to the top layer, we'll add a new empty adjustment layer. We will grab the gradient, we'll hit M for the mask, I'll double click on that, I'll say vignette, and I'm going to drag this out. Oh no, why did it lock? No, come on, what did I do? Guess let's rotate it. There we go. I'm going to drag that out quite far because I only want to affect the edges of the frame. And then I'm going to click on the layer and say invert mask. Now I can take this to about there. And then I'm going to hit M again to disable the mask view. And then I'm going to take brightness down, which is a little bit counterintuitive, not exposure. So less harsh effect. So to about there, and then also just shadow slightly. And then if we disable, enable. So it's a very subtle vignette, but it just draws the eye towards the center of the frame. And I think that is going to be that. So we had the original image layer, we had a bit of a sky adjustment, we added a bit of light into the skier here, and then added a vignette finally at the end of the black and white edit. And that is going to be that. So we'll have a quick look at the, what did I do now? There we go. Color edit, black and white edit. And so we have original image, color edit, black and white edit. I'm really liking these black and whites the last while. So let's go back there. Okay. Well, yeah, that's the end of another weekly edit in Capture One Pro this time. Hope you found that useful. If you have any tips to share, please do so down in the comments. And yeah, if you edit in Capture One, let me know how you get along. If you want to see how I edit or how any other programs like DxO, Photomator, On1, Lightroom Classic, etc. Get along with some photo editing, yeah, do stick around or pop in every once in a while for that. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.